A distant African kingdom, long ago, was a place painted in the deep colors of the ancient earth and the endless sky. The center of all life was the huge, flowing water source known simply as the Great River. For centuries, this prosperous land grew strong under a family of good rulers, kings who governed by a sacred agreement with the powerful forces of the world. These forces were Nyama, the spirit of balance and life, and Causa, the great judge of deeds. The king who was ruling then was King Zuma, called the Sun King. He ruled with quiet strength and deep kindness. His time was one of great harvests, public joy, and a deep peace that was part of the kingdom's soul. But inside the beautiful, intricate walls of the central citadel, lived a dark and terrible ambition hidden by amazing beauty, Princess Zafira, the Sun King's only child. She was physically perfect. Her skin was the color of flawless polished black stone, but her eyes held the cold, sharp look of a hawk. Her heart was merciless and calculating. She saw her father's kindness as a weakness, a waste of power. Zafira wanted total control, a throne built on fear, and she thought the old spiritual traditions were just foolish rules getting in her way. Zafira made her move to take power on the night of the yearly communal feast, a time when everyone was relaxed and trusting. She found a shadowy outsider, the pale alchemist, who sold her a rare poison that could not be found. This poison was meant to look exactly like a fast, natural heart failure. Zafira personally served her father, King Zuma, his favorite spiced drink. The king, full of trust and tired, smiled at his daughter and drank deeply. By the next morning, he was dead. His death was announced as a sudden, tragic illness. The truth, that Zafira had murdered him, was immediately and harshly silenced with large bribes and hidden threats to the court officials. After putting on a show of grief, Zafira seized the throne, proclaiming herself Queen Zafira, the Shadow Queen. The kingdom changed immediately, and the change was brutal. Zafira's first order was to fire all the traditional councils and replace them with her own private, fiercely loyal military unit, the Iron Guard. The laws that protected the common people were violently cancelled. They were replaced by cruel rules that demanded huge amounts of goods and forced the people into hard labor. Any small sign of disagreement was met with swift, complete destruction. People who spoke out were not just killed, but the deaths were often used in Zafira's growing obsession with dark magic. The Grand Citadel, once a symbol of safety, became a frightening, armed prison. The queen spent all her time reading forbidden books and doing secret, complex rituals. It was a terrifying, open secret that she had made a deal with ancient, evil spirits, trading the very soul and wealth of the kingdom for a terrifying power, making her untouchable and unnaturally long-lived. The river's flow weakened, and the land itself began to feel sick and tired. But where human strength failed, spiritual resistance began to grow. Hidden deep within a sacred cluster of huge trees, far from the citadel's reach, lived Ayana, a revered elder and the last priestess of the old ways. Her authority came from a pure, lifelong devotion to the kingdom's original, good forces, Nyama, the spirit of balance, and Causa, the great judge. Ayana felt the kingdom's sorrow like a physical weight on her body. She knew that Zafira's power was no longer mortal and could not be stopped by normal weapons. The fight had to move to the spiritual world, using the pure, unstoppable power of cosmic law. For months, Ayana prepared herself. She went through hard cleansing rituals, fasting and praying under the intense desert sun, dedicating her body to be a clean vessel for divine judgment. She had to become perfectly calm and unbiased. She painstakingly gathered the elements needed for the ultimate spell, a spell meant not to kill the queen, but to force her to experience the total, agonizing mirroring of the pain she had inflicted on others. The law of return. Ayana gathered bone-dry soil from the unmarked graves of the queen's victims, the soil of the unmarked, water collected from the great river as it inexplicably flowed backward during the deep night, the water of reversed flow, the dark, swift shadow of a desert scavenger, the scavenger's shadow, and a perfectly smooth, black reflective stone, polished with the tears of the kingdom's bereaved, the mirror of sorrows. Her final, most crucial component was a handful of the sacred red earth from the site where her father, King Zuma, had been cremated, the king's red earth, a silent, damning reminder of Zafira's first and greatest crime. The moment for the spell arrived, the night of the 3 cold moons, a rare time when the heavens focused their impartial, judging energy. Ayana stood within her sacred circle of stones, her voice rising in a low, vibrating chant, calling upon Causa to weigh Zafira's deeds and Nyama to carry out the judgment through perfect, transforming reflection. O Nyama, spirit of form, let the body of the usurper be subjected to the law of return. O Causa, great judge, let the suffering she receives match the suffering she has imposed. The ritual fire flared unnaturally, burning a cold, spectral green color. As Ayana cast the components into the cauldron, she held up the reflective stone and spoke the final, binding curse: what she has sown, she shall reap tenfold. What she has shattered, she shall be shattered by. Let the seat of her tyranny become the sealed tomb of her inevitable reckoning. At that precise, cosmic moment, a massive, silent wave of focused spiritual justice erupted from the grove, an unstoppable force aimed directly at the Citadel. Ayana fell, completely drained, but knowing the unchangeable law had been set in motion. In the Citadel, Queen Zafira was suddenly struck while in a deep, arrogant sleep. The blow was silent but completely devastating. Her magnificent body began to warp instantly. Her perfect skin grew tight, gray, and fractured with deep, painful cracks, reflecting the ruined state of the land she had exploited. Her beautiful black hair thinned and bleached into a coarse, horrifying white. The dark spiritual bonds she used to control others now turned inward, beginning her imprisonment within herself. Zafira woke up to a body wrecked with excruciating phantom pains, the constant, agonizing echoes of the lash, the gnawing hunger, and the paralyzing terror she had forced upon her subjects. Every moment brought a new reflection of the misery she had caused. She went toward her polished silver mirror and screamed in shock. The figure staring back was not the queen, but a thin, terrified shell, the living, breathing monument to her own cruelty. Crucially, the dark spirits she had consorted with immediately left her. They fled from the purer, overwhelming force of Nyama and Causa, stripping Zafira of all magical authority. Her once commanding voice became a dry, rasping whisper, unable to speak the spells that had been her shield and weapon. The Citadel's physical collapse began to match its mistress. The heavy iron gates seized up and were magically bolted shut. The lavish marble and gold floors cracked. Dust, thick and suffocating, settled over every surface. The Iron Guard, suddenly free from the Queen's dark control and seeing the physical ruin of their fortress, fell into chaos. Without their Queen's hypnotic command, they panicked, looted what they could, and quickly ran away into the confused people. The tyranny did not end in a battle. It simply dissolved in spiritual ruin. The people, waking to an unexpected, cleansing silence where the sounds of oppression had been, soon understood the miracle. They found the citadel sealed, mysteriously abandoned by the Iron Guard. The joyous news: the Shadow Queen is judged. The old ways prevail, freed the kingdom instantly. They gathered before Ayana, the priestess, who, though weak, radiated deep victory. The balance is restored, she announced. The land is free. She took no crown, only the role of a guide, helping the liberated kingdom rewrite the laws and regain their lost humanity. Queen Zafira remained, entombed within her rotting citadel. The curse was a precise tool. She could not die until she had fully and clearly lived through the totality of the suffering she had caused. The magnificent structure became a terrifying mental prison, filled with the constant, ghostly weeping of her victims and the never-ending reflection of her monstrous deeds. She lived out her days as a creature of dust and torment, her existence a permanent, haunting proof: no matter the power or the beauty, cruelty and greed always bring the ultimate, inescapable wrath of the judges, who make sure the oppressor becomes the oppressed.